Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul. I wonder if you would join me for that last line. Day is a breaking in my soul. I'll sing it and you respond. Day is a breaking. In my soul. In my soul. Thank you. I want to thank my pal and inspiration, Jenny Giddy, and also Kathy for inviting emotion into this conversation. The climate crisis needs more than just science. It needs our hearts and our minds. So I'm going to just give out a kind of a soup for your consideration, a bunch of jumbled thoughts and ideas, and I hope some of them make sense to you. But I'd like to start by asking you to do something which I have a strong belief that every single person is irreplaceable in this struggle. Everyone here. So what I would, love to ask you to do, and there's two parts to this. One is you're going to turn to your neighbors and say, you're irreplaceable. And even more terrifying, you're going to try and hear your neighbors say that to you. So go ahead. Whew! Oh my God, what a powerful room we're in. This is fantastic. All right, I'm going to start my soup and tell you about this. When I was 13 years old, I had a job working for the Smithsonian Institute. They had 6 41-foot Morgan sailboats sailing around the Caribbean doing mammal research. I was 13 years old. I wasn't doing mammal research. I was scraping barnacles off the bottom of boats and things like that. But I had a job that I loved at night, which was that I was a sort of a taxi service. I would row a rowboat between these boats and take fancy scientists, often with white wine bottles, back and forth to these different boats. But the thing was, we were often anchored off of uninhabited islands, and the panoply of stars overhead was magnificent. And on a really calm night, the stars would reflect on the floor of the ocean. And on a really, really calm night, the horizon line would disappear. In the water, there's a magnificent, wondrous little microscopic animal called a dinoflagellate. Dinoflagellates are animals, some people call them phosphorescents. They explode into light when the water gets stirred up. So every time I would haul on the oars, galaxies of light would come spinning off the oar blades and trailing out from behind the rowboat. And as you were rowing with the stars reflecting on the ocean and the horizon line gone, you felt like you were rowing through outer space. The miracle was so close. The miracle that's with us now in this room, we don't have to go to the Caribbean for it, the miracle that's in your breath, the miracle that's in your shining eyes, the miracle that's in the fossil fuel products and the chairs you're sitting on, the miracle that's in the laughter of the children, the miracle. This land is your land. This land is the land of the indigenous folks who were here before us. This land is also the land of a billion gifts. Every teaspoon of soil holds 3 billion organisms in it. That's mycorrhizal fungi and insects, bacteria. 17 teaspoons of healthy soil has more life in it than all of the human beings that have ever lived in the history of our species. We walk on it, unaware of the gifts. Jenny Giddy reminded me of, there's a Jalaluddin Rumi poem that starts, "For 60 years, I have been forgetful every minute, but not for a second has this flowing towards me slowed or stopped." I believe if we're going to win this fight, and we are actually right now winning it, and I would suggest the climate crisis is also the climate opportunity, and we need to see it that way. But if we're going to win this, and any political conversation, we have to proceed from gratitude. Gratitude for the gifts around us. I believe, for me, proof of God is the impulse towards gratitude. Gratitude is something shared across political lines. It's a place to begin. So I would just say also, I can't stand the word environmentalist because I think it doesn't do enough. The truth of the matter is, what we are is the guardians of the miracle of existence. We stand for the monarch butterfly's wing and the tail of the white-footed mouse and the breath of the black bear. We stand for that miracle. And yet, times are tough. We know this. I'm not going to go through the science. I think you guys know that. In New York, we've seen a 71% increase in extreme precipitation events. We call those microbursts, those really, really heavy rainstorms. And then we have nothing. So we get drought and we get floods. And those heavy rainstorms wash away the beautiful topsoil, the beautiful, beautiful topsoil that our farmers depend on. In Cordoba, Argentina, they got 5 feet of hail in 15 minutes. We are changing the physics of our planet. As Rothke says, we are up against the sweating wall. I would say we are up against the sweating wall of history. And I don't want to glad hand that. It's a really hard time right now, not just federally. That's easy. New York State, I think, has seen the worst week in terms of Albany and the climate in years. The CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which is our nation-leading climate law. The governor and legislators on both sides of the aisle are now saying it's impossible, it's too much. It would require us to get to 20 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. It can't be done in 4 years. It's completely impossible. Some of you, I know Jenny was there, were at Bill McKibben's thing the other day, and Bill said something fantastic, which I'm stealing from him, and I went and looked, and he's right about it. In China, in May, they deployed every single day 3 gigawatts of renewable energy, every single day. That means in China, they could reach our vaunted climate goals that we have to get to by 2030 in 6 days. The question is one of political will. We see it in Washington too, and it's tough, and I wouldn't pretend it isn't. But I think part of the reason we're seeing what we're seeing in Washington is fossil fuel industry spent $450 million in the last election cycle, and be clear about that. That $450 million didn't just pay for people supporting fossil fuels. It also paid for Project 2025. And anytime you hate the way the LGBTQ community is being treated, the way migrant worker folks are being treated, anything about that you can't stand, remember that it was paid for by the fossil fuel industry, who didn't care about anything, didn't care about democracy, as long as they continued making a profit. Now, They have never spent that kind of money in their history. The reason they're spending that kind of money is because the work people like you are doing is successful. We are winning this thing. We know for a fact the majority of New Yorkers understand the climate crisis now. That is because of the work people like you are doing. Sorry, 2 seconds. But the other side of that, I just looked up, Exxon's net worth as of November 1st was $503 billion with a B. $503 billion. So what are we going to do? What are we, 50 people, something like that? So I want to ask you a question. In the 1840s in the United States, do you know where the largest aggregation of wealth was? It wasn't in the factories, it wasn't in the banks, it wasn't in the government, it wasn't in railroads, it wasn't in shipping. The largest aggregation of wealth in the United States was in the money spent on human lives. It was the money invested in slavery. Now, I believe that that incredible amount of investment money allowed some people to justify their continued participation in that horrible, horrible practice. And I have to be careful here because I'm talking purely about economics. I'm not talking about torture. I'm not talking about genocide. I believe the exact same thing is true for the use of fossil fuels. I think that the incredible aggregation of money allows some people to justify their continued participation. But here's the thing, when you look at the emancipation movement, it starts in the plantations, it starts in England. It also starts in tiny little rooms in the Northeast where people of conscience talk to each other, both secular and religious people. That is where the change begins, in rooms exactly like this. You are irreplaceable. Exactly like this. So, this is a tough moment, but we know that no sailor, the mettle of a sailor is never tested when their ship is becalmed at anchor, right? The mettle of a sailor is tested in the high seas and the roiling waters with hailstones clattering on the decks. That is when it is tested. We are at a moment of defining our own nobility. That is what the climate opportunity is. Dr. King said that only when the night is darkest can you see the stars. I think we are now navigating a mighty armada by the starlight of each other's steadfastness and courage and actions. There's a great story about the Hubble Deep Field. If anybody, I just heard this thing. Hubble Deep Field is the part of space, if you look at it, there's nothing there. It's black. It is the darkest part of all space with nothing in it. Some astronomer convinced the Hubble telescope to swing around and point into the void of darkness for a week. And that was very expensive. I got him to do it. And what they discovered was thousands and thousands of galaxies, billions of stars in the darkness, unimagined. The darkness before us may contain billions and billions of stars. Your actions are the starlight by which we all sail together. I want to tell you one last thing, which is a story I heard from a rabbi actually at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And it's about, I know it's confusing, but it's about an old Talmudic phrase, bira deleket. And a bira deleket is a house on fire. So here's how the story goes. There's a traveler, he's walking down the road, and he looks and he sees this bira deleket, this fully this house engulfed in flames. And weirdly, inside the house, there is a man, and there's an open window, and he's leaning, he's in the fire, He's leaning out, and the traveler says, who is the master of this house? And the man leaning out the window says, I am. I'm the master. And what the rabbi said was, we often forget when we're burning down this world that God is in the world we're burning down. We forget we're in the living room and it's comfortable, that the kitchen may be on fire, that the bedroom may be on fire, that there may be people up there, people different colors than us, people who speak different languages, who are burning. We don't notice it. Here's the beauty of the old Talmudic Hebrew. Bira deleket doesn't just mean a house on fire. It also means a fully illuminated house. This may be a moment of our illumination to the possibility of what we can be, to the possibility of what our love can do, to the possibility of what our service can do. And I would just say to you all that I don't believe we're alone. We know the majority of Americans recognize this problem, even if some people in Washington refuse to see it, even if some people in Albany refuse to see it. We are part of the majority, and they are with you. They are walking with you. And certainly I think our children want you to keep walking. And I would say beyond that, I think our ancestors would be proud of everything anyone does to preserve the white-footed mouse, to preserve the monarch's wing, to be the guardians of the miracle of existence. So I thank you for your light.